Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Tonya, the Self-Care Maven, helping women everywhere look better, feel better without the pressure of other people's expectations. Welcome to my channel. If you want a new perspective on self-care, particularly self-care for women, Black women especially, then you're in the right place. Hit that button and subscribe for new episodes and new conversations. Now let's get into it now, because today I'm a little bit fired up just in terms of thinking about all that we have had to go through as women this year. The loss of the Affordable Care, well, not the loss of the Affordable Care Act, but parts of it disappeared. They didn't publicize that in the news, but just like the Voting Rights Act has been dismantled over time, we're losing little snippets of the Affordable Care Act. And particularly when you think of that in terms of women's access to reproductive rights, reproductive health care, then you got to start asking those questions in a lot of uncomfortable places. Now, if you live in North America, particularly America, this applies to you. However, on a global scale, I know if you're not living under a rock, sis, there are women in your community and communities just across the globe that are recognizing and becoming self-aware in terms of the pushback that women are experiencing, particularly when it comes to bodily autonomy, when it comes to women's rights, equality, equity, all of that good stuff. So here we are. We only have a couple of more weeks before 2023 is over and done with. And people, women, there's still a good segment of us that are living in Delulu land. This is good. I've got a hot toddy. It's been a long day in healthcare so far. So yeah, I'm having a little hot toddy, just kicking back and relaxing and sharing with you my thoughts on self-care and why what you see in the mainstream media and the lack of representation, real representation in the main screen, in the mainstream media when it comes to Black women accessing self-care, living lives that reflect self-care, and you can actually see the positive impact of that. You don't see a lot of that. We see all of these exotic places particularly on TikTok, Instagram. Oh, luxury travel and all of that. All of that is well and good. But for those of us who are living in the real world, living our regular lives and trying to get beyond just surviving toxic work environments, dealing with micro and macro aggressions, and I'm speaking to my women of color, I'm speaking especially to Black women. It's been a while. It's been a hard road. The media has been brutal within our own community, and I don't want to get into too far into the woods, because to be honest, that is a distraction. There's no such thing as a gender war. Let's get that out. Let me just say that now. And I know a number of women are probably going to push back and say, yeah, there is a gender war. All you have to do is check out social media. We all know what propaganda looks like when you take a step back. Propaganda, whether it's applied to what goes on between males and females in the social in social arena, whether it's community based. At the root of all of this is patriarchy and its children, white supremacy, all of those kind of isms, xenophobia. All of those things are interconnected. They have to do with power, who has access to power and resources, who controls power and resources. And when you take a step back, you can allow the distractions to fall apart, to fall into the background, Because in reality, when it comes to self-care for Black women, why is there such pushback, such negativity, so much drama about Black women talking self-care now? Why? Because historically and for centuries, particularly when you look at the history of this country, and by extension Canada too, because Canada is not all, roses and unicorns either. They have a lot of issues too. But by and large, America was built on the backs of enslaved people. And they expanded those industries, those power constructs through the degradation and labor of Black women. How do you reproduce a species? How do you reproduce a labor force? You need women for that, right? And so this nation that has been built on the poisonous philosophies of slavery and subjugation and degradation of women, particularly Black women and other women of color, then you begin to understand what's going on. You begin to see, why there's all this propaganda, all these gender wars. You hear all this crap about, submission and, oh, masculinized women, blah, 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 blah. It's all a distraction. So what you need to understand when it comes to self-care for Black women is that there is nothing inherently passive or soft about self-care. Self-care for women globally is always, as long as there's patriarchy, as long as we have to live within the constructs and navigate the institutions of patriarchy, self-care for women is always going to be political. It's always going to be radical. And it's always going to be polarized. Understand that. There's nothing passive, submissive, soft about self-care. I need people to get that in their heads right now. Self-care is war. It is battle. And if you cannot empower yourself, live in the universal alignment and creation of the divine feminine that says there's power in you as a woman, if you cannot activate, open your mind, begin to make the necessary mind shifts and develop that level of self-awareness to even access that on the mental plane, you're going to continue to be bucking and chiving for, the patriarchy. You're going to continue to center maleness in patriarchy rather than centering yourself. And when you center anything outside of yourself, you lose yourself, you lose your power, you lose your autonomy, you fall into those behaviors of people pleasing and doing all kinds of crazy things in order to be picked and found worthy by society, in order to access some level within the patriarchy hierarchy. Case in point, here are just a few things I just had to. I'm looking at my computer here, and I'm just going over some of the, I just said, let me Google a couple of things and, draw together a couple of things from my ladies on the interwebs who talk about, feminism, talk about self-care, and talk about empowerment of women, because that's really what this is about. And one of the things it almost sent me out of my seat, rolling on the floor, because I was, almost like, I'm definitely born in the right century, because this Child, look at. Lysol was first invented in 1889 and became a popular disinfectant during the 1918 Spanish flu outbreak. Okay, for some reason, okay, you got to hear this. For some reason, Lysol tried to rebrand in the 1920s. This Lysol, they tried to rebrand as a feminine hygiene product. Are you serious? Something that was used as a chemical disinfectant. The company literally legit tried to rebrand it as a feminine hygiene product. Can you imagine? Okay, let's leave that alone. In the 17th century, noble women of the time would wash their faces every day with urine because they believed it had antiseptic properties. Alrighty then. Hair care was awful. To achieve those trendy styles in the 1920s, women in effect destroyed their hair. Ladies began experimenting by making their own curling irons using iron shafts with wood handles heated over coals. If burnt hair wasn't enough, they used petroleum jelly to design their curls, which smelled like glue. Again, the things women have been conditioned to do, these self-destructive behaviors and cultural mores that women have been conditioned to inflict upon themselves is mind-boggling. And so you wonder, well, actually, you begin to see why when women start rebranding, if you will. No, maybe rebranding is the wrong term to use. But when women start to reclaim themselves, their power, their resources, their labor, their mental capacities, you understand why you have such toxic media when it comes to women in, engaging with the opposite sex or sexes, if you will, especially, I'm talking about heterosexual encounters, the way power is accessed under the patriarchy. You begin to see why this is so problematic for the powers that be. And that's why very little in society, in culture, is not impacted by politics, any of that. A lot of people will say, how is self-care political? Well, they're points of intersection. When you have to consider when you consider the essence of patriarchy, which is toxic in and of itself, and it's destructive. Anybody have questions about the realism of that? All you have to do is look at what's happening in the natural world, the way this planet is being exploited. Look at what's going on in the DRC. Look at what's going on in the Middle East, the conflict, the wars, the suffering. All of that is rooted in patriarchy, white supremacy, classism, xenophobia. All of those things are connected, and they all come from the same tree. And so anything in opposition to that, or anything that attempts to rebalance, to reset, to bring in equity, is going to cause conflict or be a point of contention, or is going to be seen as radical and subversive. So I need you to understand in 2023, as we move into a new year, ladies, you need to think about how you think about self-care and what that really means for you. Because I can tell you right now, it's not hopping on a trip and going to Europe, Mexico, any of that. That's all very well and good. I'm a traveler myself. I believe in exploring, being a global citizen and traveling and moving. But I also believe and am on the journey and practicing myself the radical practice of strategic adaptive self-care. I'm a women's self-care and health coach. And my strategies and my methodology is built on strategically navigating the patriarchy that we live in and the white supremacy that we as Black women have to live with under the patriarchy and the current systems in place. Now, you can argue with your mama about dismantling patriarchy and da 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 da. With all our efforts as a people here in the United States, and I say that of Black people in the diaspora, both here in North America and other parts of the world, in the Caribbean, on the home continent, that's going to take a while. But in the meantime, we still have to get to the place where we are beyond just trying to survive. It's time for Black women to thrive. And one of the primary ways that's going to happen is self-care, because self-care is the gateway and it's foundational to us reclaiming our power as women, realigning and leveling up. And so when you embark on this journey, it's not for the faint of heart, because real self-care calls for you, if necessary, get some therapy. And there are various ways to access that. I know for some, financially it's just not accessible to get the conventional form of, being able to access a therapist, in conventional ways. But that is where you'll have to do the work and the research to access mental health professionals in your community. I know here in the US and here in the Midwest, where I'm located, there are some local organizations that provide volunteer services for mental health. We can also access it via our certain agencies here. And that is something that, again, you'd have to do a little bit of research. There are a number of groups, empowerment groups, that have resources for Black women on platforms like Facebook, TikTok. There's Therapy for Black Women on Instagram. I forgot the creator who started that, but all you have to do is type in Therapy for Black Girls. You can access that platform globally. If you have access to Instagram, you can access that page, Therapy for Black Girls. And I believe there's also a website associated with that as well. So again, moving into a new year, it's time to move, particularly given the political system season we're about to go into here in the US, it's time for Black women to move strategically. We ain't got time to play around and get caught up in the mythology of gender wars. We ain't got time. We've got to move strategically so that we can secure our own safety, our own resources, so that we're beyond surviving, but actually thriving, even in the midst of the patriarchy. And there are ways to do that, but we have to be strategic about it. And we have to gatekeep that. Now, I know I'm going to get pushback too when, as I'm saying this, I'm sorry, not sorry. There are certain things, certain practices, certain strategies, certain pathways that we women, Black women, whether you're here in the US of A or in other parts of the diaspora or even on the continent, we have to start gatekeeping our knowledge, our resources, our connections. Because guess what? No one's coming to save us. And a lot of the so-called allies, especially given what's happening now in parts of the world, people are showing who they really are. And so you have to question the legitimacy of certain people and their quote unquote allyship with Black women. And I will say this, not all skin folk are kinfolk. And not all kinfolk are skin folk. So you've got to be discerning, and we've got to move strategically. And when you are practicing part of that journey of self-care, which I am still on even as a women's self-care and health coach, I've come to the realization and the awareness, and with that wisdom, to know that there are certain things you have to gatekeep, i.e., set boundaries around. Why? Because what? We are having to move strategically for our own protection, safety, and our own resources, and protection of our own resources, whether that's environmental, whether that's financial, whether that's our labor. I've been in touch with a couple of women online in various groups, and I see this trend emerging. And I'm, gratified to see this, but we need to do it more. And we've got to be more discerning, and we've got to tighten those access points even more, because we're in for a ride. And even as we talk about dismantling patriarchy and white supremacy and all of that, we can chew gum, we can talk and chew gum too, and meaning we can do more than one thing at the same time. But in order to do that, we have to move strategically. And so that means everyone staying in your lane or zone of expertise and doing your part to strengthen, support Black women and our growth and progress, protection and building up of our own resources, and securing our autonomy so that we can ride out this thing called war against patriarchy, as we're dismantling this, because patriarchy did not come into effect overnight, and dismantling it is not going to happen overnight. We have a number of extinction events taking place globally, and women are getting, in some instances, extremely violent physical backlash. Some of it is institutional, and some of it is community-based. And so we have to keep that in mind when we talk about self-care, when we talk about what does self-care look like for the average Black woman, and how does she need to move strategically in order to solidify that and secure that access to that. Because self-care will change your life. It will empower you, it will strengthen you, and it will give you the path to securing the life you want and deserve, to live in dignity, fulfillment, security on all levels, as much as is possible on this planet. So till next time, make sure if this video helped you in any way, if you had some aha moments, if it really made you think about some things, please hit the button. Follow me here. Follow me on Instagram at Tonya Taria Health, the self-care maven. Follow my channel here and make sure you hit the notification button so you'll be notified when I upload another video. I've tried to be a little more consistent in terms of uploading videos, but working in healthcare, things can get a little crazy. So I try to upload as much as possible. I'm being a little more consistent with that. Normally, my goal is always to get a video out at least in 1 to 2 weeks. Every 1 to 2 weeks. I'd like to increase that to every week, but let's see what happens. So I'm Tonya, and until next time, stay tuned.